Okay, let's go and check the state of our browser first because we've got old code in our project that's probably going to cause us a sense of confusion if we leave it there. So let's go and take a look at the client application, and if I just refresh the page, then sure, I'm getting a 401 unauthorized. And inside our home component, let's go and clean things up first of all. So let's go to our home component first of all, because we've got a get users request that's going up to our API users, but it's not going up with any kind of token to authenticate this request. And then we're calling this in the ng on init. And because it's not going up with a token, we're getting the 401 unauthorized. But we don't need this code, so I'm going to get rid of the get users. That can go now. And we'll also get rid of the ng on init. We don't need that in this component either. And we don't need the implements on init inside here, so I'll also remove that. And we don't need the users there either, or the HTTP injection in this component either. That's all we need in our home component for the time being, and I'll just clean things up at the top as well. Now what this means is that we will not get the 401 unauthorized when we refresh this page now. Okay. So let's go to our member list component. So I'm going to go to member list component.ts. And inside here, we're going to implement the on init because we're effectively going to make an HTTP request when this component initializes. So we're going to say implements on init. And we need to provide the ng on init function when we do implement this. And we're going to inject our member service into this. So I'm going to say private member service equals inject, and we're going to use our member service. And then let's create a method to go ahead and load the members. So I'm going to say load members. And I'm going to say list.memberService and get members. And this returns an observable to us, so we need to subscribe to this, otherwise nothing happens. And I'm going to subscribe, and I'm going to say in the next, we'll have the members coming back from this, so I'll say members, and then say list.members, which I didn't create a class property for, so I will do. I'll say members of type member array, and I'll just set it to be an empty array initially, and then inside here I'm going to say list.members equals members. And our members should have the correct type because when we call the get method, the get members, this was returning an observable of member array. And I've got an erroneous semicolon there, that shouldn't be there. Then we can go ahead and call list.load members. And let's go to our template. So I'll just right click and go to definition on the HTML. And we'll just make sure that this is working. So I'm going to add a div with a class of row. Inside this div, I'll give it a class of col-2. As each one of our members, once we've configured it, will take up 2 grid columns effectively of the page, and there's 12 grid columns, which means we're going to have 6 members per row. We've not got to that stage yet, so inside the div here, I'm just going to use the built-in control flow once again and add the for condition. And say member of members, and we're going to use the member.id as the tracking information, and then inside the curly brackets we'll just add a paragraph tag and use interpolation, and we'll just use member.knownAs for our check. So let's head over to the browser, and we'll need to log in as one of our users. I'm going to log in as Lisa with the password. And boom. Well, that's disappointing, but one thing that I didn't do, and I should have done, is when we added the environments file, we made a change to our angular.json, and nothing will work until we have stopped and restarted our Angular server. So I'm just going to stop it and run ng serve once again. And that has started cleanly, so let's give that another go. So back to the home page, and I'm just going to log in as Lisa with the password. And boom, It worked, and we can see our list of members, which means we are authenticating as well. And if we confirm that, and I'll just right click and inspect, and let's go to our network tab, and I'll just refresh this page, and we'll find the request going to the user's endpoint. By the way, you'll always see two. One's a pre-flight request to see what kind of communication the API server supports. So we'd always get a pre-flight request, as the client-side browser needs to know how it's going to talk to the API server, and if there's any CORS headers or anything like that. So the first request to the user's endpoint is an options request method. And just ignore this is standard browser behavior, and it's not what we're interested in. We're interested in this one, the next one down, the GET request. We're not interested in the options request, we want to see the GET request. And if we take a look at the request headers, then what we can see is we've got our authorization header and the bearer token that's being sent up with this request. And that is why we're able to retrieve the list of users. So great, now we have that in place. What we'll take a look at next is making this a bit more presentable on our page now that we're getting the data back from our server.